And here we go. We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, with planet.
Water towers fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Fighting downside FT off. Bring in FT off. It's orange!
45! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage. Put that in the big bag, Jingle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
If the methane would be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You read? We don't need any more of these.
Good evening / morning, everybody. You are taking a live look right now at Space Launch Complex 40 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida, still home to the Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers, where SpaceX is getting ready to launch the Starlink 10-18 mission. And as always, this is not your ordinary Starlink launch. I am Sawyer Rosenstein, and I will be your host for this webcast. And joining me on the air today is Alex. How is it going, Alex?
Well, it's a bit earlier here in Europe, but I guess it's even earlier in the East Coast.
Oh, yeah. And joining me from the field, who gave me a death stare so bad that I almost started laughing the last time I made that Kuiper joke, is Max. How's it going, Max?
I'm glad you remembered, and I'm not going to lie, Sawyer, that made me chuckle a little bit. But good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station from the Kennedy Space Center after what has been an interesting week here on the Space Coast, it has to be said.
It has been quite an interesting couple of weeks here at the Space Coast with launches and then not launches. In fact, lots of not launches. But anyway, hopefully we will get this one this evening. So, as we say, this is not your ordinary Starlink mission, especially because we have Kevin Michael Reed producing a late-night Starlink, which do be hitting different, first off. But also, this is a unique trajectory from what we're used to seeing, at least for Starlink. Alec, this one going northeast because of the group, right?
Yeah, so this is a Group 10 launch, which means these satellites are going to a 53-degree inclination orbit, 53.16 to be precise, but who's counting, right? And one of the things is that a lot of people that are watching, if you are experienced already with Starlink launches, is that recently we've covered launches to 43-degree inclination, and those have gone southeast because they can do that with no major dog legs or anything like that. Those sudden changes in trajectory, which take a lot of performance out of the rocket when it goes to orbit. If you want to go to 53-degree inclination orbit, If you go southeast, you have to land in the Bahamas otherwise, right? Unless you want to spend a bit of the performance of the rocket dog-legging, sort of going around the Bahamas. The other option that they have is doing what you see there on screen. That's the hazard zones for today's launch, which is going northeast, essentially. So this launch will be going northeast. We had a recent Group 10 mission more like a month or so ago. But it was not the norm, so to speak, right? Like it was one northeast launch within a sea of southeast launches, I guess. And now we should probably get more use of these northeast launches because some of those southeast launches may be going away. We'll talk about that later in the show, probably. Because direct-to-cell satellites may no longer be launching for a while, essentially. But
Yes.
yeah.
Teaser spoiler there of discussion we'll have a bit in regards to direct to cell, which good news, operational. Bad news for launches. Maybe that'll change the trajectories. But in the meantime, let's talk about tonight. So while it is going to the northeast, Max, do you mind talking a little bit about the booster and who we've got downrange?
Indeed. So over on the dock, it's stationed at Slick 40 is booster B1090-5. So this is only its fifth flight currently in its lifespan. So in the grand scheme of things, especially compared to the rest of the Falcon 9 first stage fleet, 1090 is a youngster, having only launched SES-03B Mpower E, Crew 10, Bandwagon 3, and only one previous Starlink mission prior to tonight. So hopefully it has a very long and fruitful life ahead of it, but it is a youngster by comparison to many others in the fleet. But stationed downrange, we have the drone ship Just Read the Instructions around 600 kilometers or so downrange, and stationed about 100 kilometers further is the fairing recovery ship Bob, hoping to scoop those fairings out of the Atlantic Ocean following a good stage separation, or I should just say separation, not stage separation, and a good splashdown in the Atlantic Ocean. So, by all accounts, tonight does not feel like an ordinary Starlink, partly because it's not based on it flying northeast, but also it has been just a very weird week here on the Space Coast between the Axiom kerfuffle and then the Kuiper kerfuffle that we had the past couple of days. So hopefully we can see both of those missions get off the ground sooner rather than later.
Yeah, it feels like it's been so long since there's been a launch from the Cape, but the last one was still under a week ago, if I remember rightly. It was
Yes.
There was the Starlink last week, but which I know when I was there for, I think it was the first Axiom attempt, the booster was in port, or was it for the Kuiper? I don't know. The booster was in port for a bit there, so at least it's been recent enough that the teams are still working on it. And don't forget, we have our Space Coast Live 24/7 where you can cover all of that. And if you do have questions, you can tag us at NASA Spaceflight, and we will do our best to answer as many of them as we can. But I think it's worth kind of discussing that. So we have obviously the rocket here at Pad 40. Pad 39A is kind of on a hold because of the Axiom mission, which was delayed first due to an issue on the rocket and then an issue with the International Space Station. But Max, we actually have a new tentative no earlier than date. And it is key to note it is still no earlier than, right?
It is. The teams at Axiom and NASA are still working towards finalizing the launch date, which is currently net June 22nd, coming up pretty soon this weekend, hopefully. But yeah, it is still currently under revision and analysis, I guess you could say. So was the previous date of the 19th that was set publicly. So I just want to say really quickly that hats off to the teams at NASA and Axiom for working through everything that has been, I assume, quite a big headache around this mission, and we hopefully can see them resolve this issue sooner rather than later and get Falcon 9 and its crew of 4 off of the ground with that brand new Dragon capsule over at LC-39A soon. But yeah, it has been a bit of a headache, and we are kind of holding our breath, seeing if that date on Sunday morning holds. And because it is launching to the International Space Station with every single day, that it delays the T0 shifts left by around 25 or so minutes because of, well, orbital mechanics and the International Space Station having to line up. So So fingers crossed for Sunday, but we will see. At the moment, we don't really have a new net for Kuiper. We did see that Atlas V was rolled back into the VIF today over at Slick 41 to address the issues at hand that Tori had mentioned yesterday on social media. But at the moment, we are still waiting on a new net for Kuiper. But in the meantime, we have Falcon 9 over at Slick 40 and Starlink 10-18 heading northeast.
Yes, so for those who are sad they couldn't get the Northeast launch to the ISS, you get a Northeast launch tonight. And while I have you here real quick, Max, one more question for you. How is the weather looking? Because it looks pretty good from that view.
It is looking fabulous, actually. There is only a gentle breeze coming out of the south, and we are seeing a plenty of stars in the sky above our heads with no moon currently up yet to dim them. So it is looking like a wonderful night. You really can't ask for any better conditions here on the Space Coast, at least for here. I honestly have not seen the forecast for downrange conditions or the exact percentage of well, there we go. It's right in front of us. And wow, yeah, just as our Mark 1 eyeballs have been telling us, yeah, conditions are about as good as they can get here with a less than 5% chance of violation due to weather constraints here tonight for Starlink. So, and also as we can see, both with the upper level wind shears, booster recovery weather, and solar activity, risks are all valued as low. So really, as we say, not as often as we'd like, but sometimes we are fortunate enough to say that launch conditions tonight are about as good as they can get.
Exactly. That is what we love to see. And yeah, it's very, very, very rare to see a 0. And it's very, very, very rare to see none under the concerns there. So that is about as good as you're going to get here.
Absolutely.
Let's see here. Let's take some of your questions as I go back to the panel. Here's one. As we look at 40, obviously we have the crew capsule over at 39A. And we have a question here from Hidden Force. Saying any word on the first crewed launch from Slick 40? I guess in this case it would be the second crewed launch since we had Crew 9 lift off from this pad. But Alex, any word on when we might see crew again from 40?
You know, I really don't know because it's sort of like an availability thing, right? The whole reason they did the Crew 9 launch from Slick 40 was precisely because over at LC-39A, they needed that pad for Falcon Heavy, right? They were launching NASA's Europa Clipper spacecraft, and that really needed to be launched from there because it's Falcon Heavy, it's LC-39A, and it cannot delay because it was a planetary window. And so it really, really had to be on time and from 39A. And so the only way to launch that crew was to launch it from here, from Slick 40. So that was the only reason they used it. Now, will something like that happen in the future? Perhaps, right? Maybe there'll be a very important mission that needs LC-39A, and then a crew mission will have to go from Slick 40. But for now, we don't really have an estimated, like, this is going to be that next mission from there.
It will be exciting when we do get to see it again. But I mean, yeah, right now 39A is working. It's not that busy, which I guess is kind of a sad thing at the moment, but it does give them time, I guess, to continue working over on Starship stuff over there and continue to dig the trench and reinforce it now. So that's the one positive to not having that many launches from there, is they can keep working over on Starship stuff. Let's see. And speaking of, Top Hat wondering, Alex, will there be any Falcon Heavy launches this year?
Probably a lot of the launches for the future of Falcon Heavy are either highly unknown commercial missions, in the sense that their schedules a little bit iffy, so to speak, right? Or they are military missions, and military missions. Sometimes we do know some of the mission dates and things like that. There could be up to maybe 2 on Falcon Heavy this year, and but that's another thing as well, which is military missions lately have not been on time in terms of payload readiness either. So yeah, and Falcon Heavy has had a number of payloads, of military payloads, where it's been delayed so much. Oh my lord, yeah, it's been really, really bad. But yeah, not the rocket's fault, but it is being mostly the payloads.
Yeah, that's the rare thing that it's hard to think of is all the times where it's like, oh my gosh, the rocket, what's going on with it? No, it's the payload more than the vehicle readiness.
You probably remember how long we waited for USSF 44. It was the
Oh,
fourth the fourth Falcon Heavy. Between the third Falcon Heavy and the fourth Falcon Heavy, it was like a 2.5 year gap. We were waiting for so long for that.
Yep.
In fact, I remember, I think it was either that one or one of the side boosters of like a later Falcon Heavy. They had to retest one of those Falcon Heavy side boosters precisely because of like of how long it had been since it had been first tested for that mission. But yeah, that's one of the commercial missions that I was referring to, the Griffin mission one. That's going to be a lunar lander from Astrobotic landing on the moon, potentially launching, perhaps, maybe, we'll see. December 2025. I wouldn't hold my breath for that date to stick to December 2025. If anything, lunar landers have been lately not following schedules. Let's put it that way.
No, really hadn't noticed. But yes, and also to all the stand-up maths fans out there who will have their name on that rover now. But that's a whole another story.
Oh yeah.
You saw the video.
Yep.
It was funded, by the way. That's the latest update. Spoilers. Let's see here. Let me thank the people who have just been going on a gifting spree here. Doug Ramsey gifting 10 Red Team memberships. Thank you very much for that. And RC Horseman gifting 10 Red Team memberships as well. Thank you so much for that. Sheriff Tracy, of course, the best Tracy, gifting 5 Red Team memberships. And Astro Knucklehead gifting 1 Red Team membership, who earlier said a hockey reference, calling me an honorary Canadian, except for the fact that the Florida Panthers beat a Canadian team. Sorry about that. Had something in my throat. Anyway, let me also thank Alan Horn for becoming a Pad Rat member. For some reason, I thought of Taskmaster, but that's Alex Horn. Also then upgrading to Red Team member. Karen, thank you for becoming a Pad Rat member. And Mr. Game IO with the question here. Alex, thoughts on the Honda rocket plus money for the Cheesecake Fund? For those who didn't see, Honda is now in the rocket game with their hop test.
And Mitsubishi is the one that's building the H-2A rocket and the H-3 and everything. So why not, right? Mitsubishi is also done for more like heavy industry and everything. But yeah, I mean, it's a nice thing. I wouldn't get too overhyped. It's amazing that suddenly they came out of nothingness. Essentially, they said, "Hey, we've got this. It runs on Methalogs as well. It's got a couple of engines and whatnot." But it's a tiny rocket. It's even tinier than Electron, right? That booster is like 6 meters tall, 85 centimeters in diameter. So it's not a huge thing, but it's a proof of concept, and they eventually want to have suborbital rocket, bit sort of New Shepard style kind of thing to carry suborbital payloads and whatever in around 4 years' time. So they're trying to get there, and that's sort of their first step to have this little tiny rocket that they can hop and everything and be able to test all of that. I wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, they're gonna be toppling over all of the big, but it's an effort, and I really applaud that. Any efforts are nice.
It hit VTech, yo.
It
True.
probably does. I mean, they are really good. That's one of the things of the automotive industry, right? Like, if you really know how to work cars and things like that, it's not that much of a difference with rocket engines. You probably need a bit more pressures on your engines, right? But other than that, you probably are able to build, yeah. So
Little more horsepower than the Honda minivan.
Just
that I
a
had
little
in my
bit, yeah.
car. Yeah. Also, yes, vertical takeoff, vertical landing, VTVL in addition to VTEC, baby. All right, we are coming up now on about 40 minutes to go, so we are starting to get into the juicy part of the count, where it'll actually start kicking up here. Max, what are we expecting now that we hit the 40-minute mark?
Indeed. So we are actually not that far away from the first milestone of tonight's events, being at T-minus 38. The SpaceX launch director here at the Kennedy Space Center will either verify if the vehicle and ground systems are either go or no-go for propellant load. And assuming all goes well and a go is pulled, Stage 1 and Stage 2 RP1 load and Stage 1 LOX load will begin at T-minus 35 minutes. And we should see the first visual indicators of prop load via either frost or vapor coming off the tank structure at around T-minus 31 or 32 minutes. But with B1090 being a fairly young booster and there not being a ton of soot to contrast against the frost, we might have a bit more tricky of a time spotting any of that. There's also no wind tonight, so the vapor will not exactly be blown in any particular direction. So we will have to keep our eyes peeled around T-minus 30 minutes or so, but that will be a definite indicator that we are well into prop load, unless SpaceX opts to tweet something and get the word out there. Following that, we should have the big vent, as we call it, or the best vent, at T-minus 20 minutes and 20 seconds. That is where SpaceX begins the thermal conditioning of the lines in the transporter erector in preparation for Stage 2 liquid oxygen load. And that should wrap up at around T-minus 16 and a half minutes or so, which will indicate that Stage 2 liquid oxygen load is underway. But in order to get there first, of course, they have to verify that the vehicle and all systems involved are go for prop load, which should be arriving in about 25 seconds. I wish we had some kind of like audio listening into the control room to make sure that's verified or not. But alas, we do not have that access. But everybody, cross your fingers because we are just about there.
Right, because this isn't your ordinary Kuiper launch, it's Starlink, and we don't get the comms.
It's sad face.
I mean, I say that, but it is worth noting that Project Kuiper isn't launching exclusively on Atlas. While it may be a competitor to SpaceX, they are, Alex, launching some of these missions on Falcon 9, right?
Yeah, they are indeed. That's one of the little things that we should expect perhaps in the coming months. But that's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, we will see launches on Atlas. We will see launches on Vulcan. A couple on SpaceX. We will see them on Ariane 6, and on New Glenn at some point. So, sorry, did that make it on the air? Oops.
Yeah, oops.
No, but it's one of those where it's nice to kind of see it launching all the different vehicles, and it's a way to get their constellation into orbit because they have a lot that they need to get into space by the end of July of next year. So, any way to get it going, right? So we will see for that. But in the meantime, in regards to the SpaceX network, when it comes to Starlink, I know it's kind of, a weird transition to go from Kuiper to Starlink because it's so different. But one thing that Starlink does that is different that we know of, at least from Kuiper, is the direct-to-cell network. And Alex, I believe we now know that it's up and running, or at least has all the satellites it needs to start.
Yeah, so after the last Group 12 mission, if you remember, that was essentially the last flight that we covered from the Cape. That was Group 1226. Starlink confirmed that Starlink direct-to-cell constellation is now complete, which means missions like Group 12 missions that we've been covering lately might be done for, because those used to carry a mixed batch of direct-to-cell satellites with regular V2 mini satellites. And the whole thing with that is that, well, if direct-to-cell satellite constellation is now complete, then that means they probably don't need any more. In fact, it looks like they may be prepared. Like, I should probably backtrack a little bit there, my statement. We will see more direct-to-cell satellite launches. The whole difference is, will it be on Falcon 9? Because one of the sort of heads or bosses of Starlink, Michael Nichols, sort of hinted that there's a Gen 2 of Starlink direct-to-cell coming whenever. I don't know how soon, but it's coming. So he's already hinting at a second generation of the Starlink direct-to-cell satellites. The question is, will it be something that they launch on Falcon 9, or will it be something that they launch on Starship, right? And if it doesn't start, if it is on Starship, maybe it won't be until next year because Elon has already said that Starlink launches on Starship might not be until next year. So it'll probably be if it is on Starship, then it probably will be next year, but we'll see. So yeah, those Southeast launches with direct to cell and everything that we've been covering lately might already be done for, and we'll just see plain old V2 minis being launched on these missions.
Exactly. So yeah, like they said, the Gen 1 satellites have now been launched, pointing out in that tweet you saw. And as you mentioned, Michael Nichols saying, just wait for Gen 2 ... So we will see. And yeah, like you said, we'll have to wait and see whether Starship ends up launching them or not, because it is, again, worth noting, I guess being the Ryan Weber tonight with the pessimism, that it has yet to deploy a satellite of any kind. So just saying, but it will happen soon. In the meantime, take a look at this awesome view from Max out in the fields there. You can see, I see a good moon horizon, despite what Credence may see, and Falcon 9 there off to your right, getting ready to launch in just under 34 minutes from now. Oh, Max, that is a epic view, dude.
It's always a treat seeing the moon come up over the turn basin water here. It's absolutely beautiful, and it's just to the right of Slick 41. I don't think it'll be in position for a transit, say, but it will definitely be in our wide shot for liftoff. So it'll be a visual treat tonight, I guess we could say. But my goodness, that is always so pretty. It's about 50-ish%, I think, in dimming.
And that is a waning moon there as well. About a waning 3/4 moon, then, is the name, I think.
Gibbous is when it's greater than 50. Crescent is when it's less than 50. I think it's just half. I mean, I'll have to recheck really quick. I think it's around. Hang on, bear with me. I'm curious now. I have to
It's a
figure it
half
out.
moon, which I believe, if it's waning, is a 3/4 moon, and yeah.
The moon is. Oh goodness gracious.
Or last
It's not
quarter. Yeah.
saying. It's not saying. Hang on. It won't say. Oh well.
I will say,
but it's at about 50-ish%.
yeah, I will say the way that I learned waxing and waning was when it's lit on the right, it's like wax on from Karate Kid, wax on, wax on. Anyway, the moon may be at about 50%, but hopefully Falcon 9 should be at a couple of percent in terms of fuel loading now. And it looks like
I see
you can see a
vapor.
little bit of frost at the bottom of the vent. Yep, absolutely. So with that, fueling is underway, and SpaceX is committed to that T0 of about 1:55 a.m. Eastern time here. So 31 minutes and 49 seconds or so from now. Looking good. Love to see it. Let's see here. So in terms of questions, I guess we've got the question I saw was, is the actual direct-to-cell network up and running yet, or is it just they've launched all the satellites? Do we know?
It's already up and running. It's actually available already for T-Mobile users in a beta sort of program that they have set up in the US. That is, in other countries, I believe in New Zealand, Australia, I think it is also Japan, that they have already some of these programs as well with other operators, local operators, of course. But there's already a few countries where you can already have direct to cell on your phone, and it's been for a while. I think at least a year or so for certain places. I know because I usually write this sort of quarterly roundups of SpaceX activity, and usually on the Starlink section, I add new countries that it's been now available and direct to cell progress. And one of the things was I remember maybe a couple of quarterly updates. It was now it's available. They have a beta program and everything, and it's up and running. So yeah.
Yeah, I see a couple of people in chat saying they have it. Kevin Michael Reed producing saying they are in the T-Mobile beta, but have never actually used direct to cell because he always has service. Sure, rub it in, why don't you? But that will be cool. If you do use it, you gotta see a recording of it, so that'll be nice. Anyway, while we're talking about other rockets and other missions in the area, we did have a question from Owen saying, any idea when New Glenn will fly again? Because we mentioned Kuiper will be flying on that. Obviously, Starlink will just be sticking to SpaceX family rockets. But any word, Alex?
Well, Dave Limb said that they are targeting mid-August, right? They're trying to get the next launch of New Glenn around that time frame. We're not fully sure what kind of payload they're going to be launching on that one. It's a bit not clear, so to speak. They seem to be indicating that maybe it's going to be NASA's Escapade back on the menu, essentially. There's some other documentation that implies that maybe they're going to be doing some kind of rideshare mission of certain payloads, which could still include Escapade, to be fair. But we'll see what happens with there. Of course, we will need to see the first stage rolling out and getting tested and whatnot. We already saw the second stage, and that one is like, okay, we know that one they already have it for that second launch. But the booster, though, we'll see when that starts testing and all that.
Exactly, and they need this second certification flight so that they can start flying national security payloads as well,
Yep.
so that they can then join the list along with SpaceX, along with Vulcan. So the next new launch type vehicle to get the military contracts going. Shiloh McKinsey saying, by the way, a waning moon waiting in the turn basin? Question mark.
It sure kind of
I
looks like it from over here. Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, swimming moon. I don't know. I should have a pun for this. Gosh, why do I not have a pun off the top of my head? Pun.exe has stopped working. Help. I'm sure
Those
there are
late
many
night
people that are
Starlinks
actually happy with that.
do be a curse and a blessing sometimes, eh?
Those late night Starlinks do be hitting different.
That's just aerospace brain rot right there.
Yeah, well, it's a good thing then that when Axiom goes, it won't be at 4 something in the morning if it goes on the 22nd. Oh, wait. Sorry. Well, here's another question then. We're talking about the cadence here. It feels like it's kind of slow at this point for SpaceX, but the cadence, Max, has still been pretty fast, right?
Yes, and they are still on pace to be around the 160 launch mark in total between both coasts here by the end of 2025. At the moment, they are, I forget what the exact number is here from Florida. I want to say it's around 57 or 58 this year in total, including the launch of
48.
New Glenn. 48. Okay.
Oh, you mean
is that just SpaceX
with-
or launches in
okay.
total?
Yeah, SpaceX 48. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this will be 49. And that's still we still technically are not even halfway through the year yet. So, yeah, and they have certainly been picking up the pace over at Vandenberg as well, and also with a stunner of a launch last night as well too. But yeah, at this point, if they keep up the cadence without any major interruptions, like God forbid a hurricane, or they have some kind of issue with Falcon, or some larger issue that I don't even want to begin to talk about, they should be around the 150 to 160 launch mark by the end of 2025.
And that's the goal. You can see there all the stats on the screen. This one will be SpaceX's 517th overall, 78th launch of the year, and the 9th of the month, with the 491st orbital flight of Falcon 9. I know, Alex, the numbers on these can be a little wonky because of what counts as orbital, what counts as flight, etc.
Well, no, that's essentially, all Falcon 9s that have launched and have targeted orbit, essentially. So that will not count, for example, AMO6. It will not count also in-flight abort test, because that was not orbital and things like that. But yeah, we are 9 launches away. So essentially early July. But yeah, I mean, Max is correct. Like, I have my own spreadsheet and whatever, right? And ever since we began the year, so at the beginning of the year, it was like tracking 145. Then around March, April, around that. It started tracking 150, then 155, and now they went turbo mode. I guess the VTech thing is also working at SpaceX. Yeah, right. They went turbo mode and they had 16 Falcon 9 launches in May, which made all of those sort of forecasts for the end of the year go way up, because now it's like 160, 161. The most that I've seen so far is 162 on my prediction. And in fact, if they were to do 16 launches every single month from now on, just like they did on May, it will be essentially even more than 170 by the end of the year if you do all the calculations and whatnot. So it's going to be really interesting if they even get more than 170. I will suspect that these months like that where they have like 16 launches per that month will probably compensate some of the other months where it's going to be bad weather and things like that. Tonight, as you can see, it's amazing weather, so we don't expect any issues with that. But some other days might be a little bit of an iffy weather, and launches may delay, right? And do the S word. But yeah.
But you know what,
And it
Alex? That's actually one of the greatest benefits of having multiple pads to fly from here in Florida,
Yep.
both being Slick 40 and 39A. If they only had one pad, in this case, LC 39A, with this holdup of Axiom, they would not be able to launch anything else. And the advantage of having a pad as robust and easily able to be turned around quickly as Slick 40 can, they can just keep setting up Starlink missions or other customer missions up as they please, while Axiom finally awaits its turn to get airborne. So in Slick 40, they can turn that one around in under 3 days if they really have to, if the cadence requires it. So that is the biggest benefit of Slick 40, which is currently the busiest launch complex in the world, and certainly one of the most used as well now, having supported a number. I think it's over 100. Is it over 100 launches now for Falcon from Slick 40, Alex?
Oh, more. It was on the stats before.
It was over 200, wasn't it?
200. Okay.
259. This is the 259th launch.
So
from
halfway
Slick
to
40.
500.
Yeah. And that's exactly, I mean, you are correct on what you said, because it's like ever since we've been waiting around for Axiom to launch, we've had already 2 launches from Slick 40, and this will be the 3rd. And maybe we may get a 4th if it keeps delaying a little bit. Like right now on that June 22nd, because that's the latest that we got for Axiom 4, there's also a Starlink scheduled that same day. So depending on how things go, we may even have 4 Starlink launches from Slick 40 before even Axiom takes flight. Ever since, it was supposed to originally be launched.
I mean, cool for the doubleheader, not cool for it, pushing that much that we can get 4 Starlinks in there. But
Yeah,
the other
no
thing
kidding.
that it is worth noting, though, that we are just about to enter hurricane season and the summer and storm season, where Florida is about to be so unpredictable that it's predictable that you will have these terrible afternoon storms pop up.
Exactly.
So it's
Hey,
worth
Sawyer.
noting that it's something that has to be kept in mind. Yes, Kevin Michael Reed.
Sawyer,
What?
I'm just noticing something. Max is focusing. He told me that he was focusing a different camera. I'm noticing we have a metric back here that tells us how much people are chatting.
Yes.
And right now, that chat rate is 5. I think that's 5 chats per minute.
Yeah,
That's
it
a
feels like-
problem. That's a problem. We need to wake up, chat. We need to wake them
Oh
up.
my lord.
Okay,
Come on, chat. Wake up.
you need to time it so the bass drops in about 17 seconds, though.
DJ KMR.
AMR, for the record, I did tell you the correct camera for exposure, for the record.
Yeah, I pulled up the wrong one.
Well, guess what? We're about to pull up on screen this right here, the T-minus 20 minute, 20-second event. Raise your hands in the air like you really do care that we're this close to launch. There's the bass drop.
There
Nice.
you go.
So Max to the beat. What is the T-minus 20 minutes, 20-second event?
I'm not sure I can quite follow it with the beat because I'm just musically illiterate. But what you are seeing right now is a bunch of vapor coming out of the transporter erector because SpaceX currently is flowing liquid oxygen through the propellant lines in the transporter erector in order to thermally condition them in preparations for stage 2 liquid oxygen loading, which should begin at around T-minus 16 minutes and change. So this event will continue for about another 2.5 minutes or so, actually about 3 minutes time. And once that disappears, that should be our visual indicator that stage 2 LOX load is underway.
Yes, and it is nice to see chat awake, and I hope now that everyone has woken up everyone in their house as well. I saw someone had their sound bar with the bass going. Hopefully everyone in your house is woken up, your neighbors are woken up, tell them there's a rocket about to launch in 19 minutes from now. So, yeah, everyone join in, and a reminder, you can tag us at NASA Spaceflight to ask us questions. But for those who are now wide awake and just joining the party, this is the Starlink 10-18 mission with 28 Starlink V2 mini satellites. Just the V2 minis, none of the direct-to-cells, as we were discussing there. But Alex, this is a unique one for viewers who are here. We almost needed the breaking news stinger. That would have been a good idea, too. So... The direction for this one is something we're not used to seeing that often for Starlinks. This is not your ordinary Starlink trajectory, Alex.
Yeah, it's also the summer, so right now it's going to be going to the northeast, this mission. We have a few more Group 10 missions coming up soon, so we should get ready and prepare for those northeast Starlink launches. So there you can see those hazard zones for today's mission. Telling boaters and aviators, hey, don't fly or boat in the area because, rocket parts may fall on you if this thing blows up or something like that, which we don't want to, but hey, precautions, right? And so that's one of the things for today's mission. It also changes the re-entry zone for the second stage. If you've been watching our recent coverage of like Group 6 and Group 12 missions, those used to re-enter over the Indian Ocean, but sort of like the west portion of the Indian Ocean. Now it's going to also re-enter over the Indian Ocean, but sort of like south of Australia or west of Australia, essentially. Little bit different, again, because it's going northeast. It's also a different inclination. It's 53 degrees instead of 43, as we used to cover recently. And again, one of the advantages of a northeast trajectory is that booster recovery and ferry recovery can happen in the North Atlantic, which, to be fair, in the summer is a little bit more calm. It's weird to say this, but the North Atlantic is usually a little bit more calm than the Bahamas area, essentially, in the summer, because that area might actually have sometimes hurricanes.
Yeah, those slight issue. Let's see here. Someone, Astro Knucklehead, calling me a Canadian. I'm not a Canadian. I'm a Floridian, which is probably worse. It's probably better if I said as Canadian.
What
but
are you talking about? This is slander, Sawyer.
I mean, yes, Florida home to the Stanley Cup winners now again, and I'm not that I was super excited when that game happened. It was watching the whole thing or anything, but I totally was. Yeah, Florida. So, Shiloh here saying, so an admitted West Coast, best coast for launches? No, absolutely not. Never. You will not hear those words from my mouth.
They just have a lot more Twilight launches than we do, but that does not make them the best coast.
Not that many. It's just they get more views because instead of going out over the ocean and away from us, typically in the southeast, they happen to fly right near Los Angeles where they could be seen. LA, you could see him. In Arizona, you could see him all the way down that way. And yes, the social media had some spectacular images and videos of the launch from Vandenberg the other day. I will say that. But Max, unfortunately tonight though, we won't get a sunset jellyfish. Any shot maybe at a lunar jellyfish?
The moon, as we can see from our wider feed, is coming up, and that may offer some illumination past stage separation for the MVAC exhaust trail. maybe a little bit more than we normally get, but it's normally not as pronounced without a full moon giving as much light as possible to that plume, but maybe. What we do know is that the visuals are going to be spectacular anyway, with that moon being in close proximity to the pad at liftoff. So while we might not get a full jellyfish effect here tonight or a boost back nebula because the booster is heading out towards just read the instructions in the Atlantic, we are still going to get quite a show as the scene is set right now. So, and hopefully a bigger show with Axiom with its boost back nebula, because of course, that booster is coming back to LZ1 following stage separation, and then hopefully not too long after that or before that. Who knows at this point with scheduling? Hopefully, we can also get Atlas 5 off the ground in the daytime. Hopefully, not at night, because as much as we love night launches, daytime launches are just better for everybody involved.
Well, it depends on what time in the day, I guess, too.
Yeah.
Like, if it's 7 a.m., it's like, all right, then you're staying up all night versus, midday or even late morning. Those are a little better.
I would happily stay up all night if it meant the possibility of a solar transit or getting a shot with the sun in the frame, as opposed to being up all night for a 5 a.m. T0 and no chance of a jellyfish. Just saying.
Really?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, I get that. I mean, yeah, those spectacular shots, but you could also do that at, for me at least, at sunset. You get those good shots. You're not going to get probably solar transit, given that everything goes east. But yeah, I get it.
Well, sunset is just better for everything involved. I mean, obviously, we are incredibly biased, and that is completely subjective. But yes, sunset launches are the best. That is at least where we stand here at NSF, or at least most of us. I'm sure there are others who, I guess, see things differently. But in our opinion, sunset launches are just better. They're just better.
Yeah, I will agree with that. And I mean, we have some amazing prints that were shot at sunset on shop.nasaspaceflight.com. Just saying out there that if you do like those sunset shots, even some of those sunrise shots, they're on there. Wasn't there a launch recently, Max, where it did that shot right in front of the sun just after sunrise? I'll admit that one was spectacular.
It was, albeit it wasn't that recent anymore. That was just following the launch of Crew 10, literally the morning after. I just rolled out of bed, and because we were prioritizing crew rest at that point, we did not do a full stream for it, so we were able to get a bit of rest that morning. But I had a big lens with me that I had rented, and it was still able to be used. And I'm like, you know what, may as well. So I rolled out of bed and went to the correct spot and saw Falcon 9 transit a rising sun.
Yeah, I mean, Starship was right around sunset for that launch. Then you had the Falcon, that was that morning shot, which I didn't even realize was directly after Crew 10. I forgot about that. So there's the sunrise shots. And then, I mean, look at that. That is a great shot. And it's also available as posters, I should say, not just as metal prints. You can also get the paper versions of them. And then Crew 10 was a sunset launch too, and I know I got the shot with the flag too, and the colors of it were just absolutely perfect for it. I mean, look at that, the contrast of the sunset and the sunrise shots back to back. So that's at shop.nasaspaceflight.com. Wasn't even planning for that as our merch plug, but it just happened to come up, and I'm like, you know what? Those shots are spectacular, and it's a chance to show off the amazing photographers here, because a reminder, every print that you do get at the shop does actually go to support the photographer who took it. Let's see here, Neil. We are about 11 minutes to go until launch. We are getting into the nitty-gritty here. Let me just thank some people real quick. Ethereal Swordsman. Apparently, until 2020, it was illegal to swear in Virginia, and it's still a Class 3 misdemeanor in Virginia Beach if it offends someone. Okay. West Coast, Worst Coast. Oh, wait, I'm not in Virginia. I could say that and not get fined. Haha. And Astro Knucklehead, Canadian hockey players win cup for Florida team. We call them Canadarms up here. Very clever. Canadarm, also the name of the robot arm on the shuttle. Yes, I made a hockey reference before a shuttle reference somehow on the stream. What is wrong with these late night Starlinks? They've got me all messed up.
There's also one on the International Space Station, don't forget.
Canadarm 2, yes, absolutely. And you can still go see some of those actual Canadarms at their exhibits as well, including one on the East Coast, West Coast, where Space Shuttle Atlantis is. I did see someone asking Alex, they're wondering where is booster 1076, saying it hasn't flown since February. Had SpaceX retired it.
Yeah, that's a head scratcher. So I've got like two potential theories about why it might be the case. The first one, and the one that I think is probably more likely, is that it's being reserved for a future expendable launch. Maybe SpainSat 2, for example. Because SpainSat Engine 1 was also expendable. It's a very heavy satellite, and it seems like the Spanish government might want it a little bit quickly into GTO, right? And so that's why they sort of asked for that expendable launch on the first SpainSat launch that they had. So potentially, maybe the second one might also be expendable. We had Beaton 73 being expended on that mission. If you remember, Beaton 76 is sort of its sister booster. So both Beaton 73 and Beaton 76 were built initially with the thought of them being Falcon Heavy side boosters. And in fact, one of the things of Falcon Heavy side boosters is that they lack any sort of, Falcon 9 logos, for example. They also don't have one of the SpaceX logos. So there's like two SpaceX logos normally on a regular booster. One of them is missing on side boosters, on Falcon Heavy side boosters. So 73 was expended on the first SpainSat on its 21st flight. 76 has already done its 21st flight. That was the one that they're referring to that happened in February. So maybe its 22nd might be on the second SpainSat launch and also expendable. That's my first theory. The second one is that because it is a Falcon Heavy side booster, it might go on a future, expendable Falcon Heavy. But I don't know. We'll see.
Alex, can you please ask your government to not throw boosters away, please?
Look, at least we pay for it, okay? It's enough that we at least have the money to pay for it, which anyways, yeah.
Anyway, and the booster tonight is a pretty new one. Max, just really quickly, what booster is this as we get about 7.5 minutes to go for those who might just be joining?
Yeah, really quick, this is booster B1090-5. So it is a youngster in the Falcon 9 first stage fleet, with this being only its 5th assigned flight. So not a lot of soot covering the first stage, which makes spotting, I guess, for any frost or vapor initially in prop a little bit difficult. But as you can see, Falcon 9 is wearing a full coat of vapor and frost as the first and second stage prop tanks are nearly full and nearing flight pressure. So those will begin to wrap up in just a few minutes. But folks, it is getting to be about that time. I have some cameras to get ready, so I will see you guys on the other side.
Sounds good, Max. Looking forward to seeing your track. And now at this point, we are getting to about under 7 minutes to go until launch. And at this point, engine chill is underway. So, or at least should be. Alex, why do they chill down the 9 Merlin 1D engines at the bottom there?
Yeah, they essentially need to do that because Falcon 9, the Merlin engines use liquid oxygen, very cold cryogenic liquid oxygen. And when the engine is operating, those pumps, they essentially pump in the kerosene. I was going to say methane because I've been working on the Raptor video recently. But no, there's no methane here. It's kerosene. Kerosene, it's fine. It's mostly almost ambient temperature. It's also colder than ambient temperature, but it's okay with that. For the oxygen, though, when the engine is operating, especially a startup, what they do is like they flush a lot of this oxygen through, and it's a high flow rates and everything. Before any of that happens, if you were to do that with no conditioning, with no chill down, you will probably break your engine, right? The oxygen will immediately turn into gas, and it will probably wreck your engine. And if it doesn't do that, at least it may thermally shock the metals, right, on the pumps and break some of the stuff there. So you don't want that. What you do is before the launch, you essentially let some of the liquid oxygen very slow flows through the pumps, and that's what they're doing right now, that chill down procedure, very similar to what we talked about for the T-20 minute vent and sort of that conditioning for fueling and whatnot.
There we go. Now about 5 minutes to go. Really quickly, let me thank Mark Lamb here with the $10 tip at tips.nsaspaceflight.com. Love all you do. Saying they had issues purchasing a New Glenn print to Illinois. Reach out to the shop team. I'll make sure that it gets passed along to them as well, and we'll make sure we get that fixed for you, but I will happily still take that pun token. Thank you. Especially as I will use it. I will find a strong opportunity to use it, and now might be a good time with the strong back about to retract as we come up at 4.5 minutes to go until launch. It's a little hard to see from that original view, but from this view, you'll notice the clamps that go around the fairings there, those yellow parts opening up, and then it will start to lean backwards about 1.8 degrees before throwing all the way back. And there is the call out from SpaceX confirming the retract has started. Again, going back a little under 2 degrees before throwing all the way back at launch. Also worth noting, you will see there is a difference between our clock and when we show the SpaceX view of their clock. That is because of the latency. Ours does not have that latency, so there will be the 10-second view, and things will happen 10 seconds ahead of time on our screen. So a lot of times it will kind of be a replay from SpaceX there. Alex, what can we expect now in the final 3.5 minutes before launch?
Yeah, so the final few things are just wrapping up propellant load. Kerosene has already been loaded on both stages. The next thing will be liquid oxygen load wrapping up on the first stage, roughly T-minus 3 minutes in the count. Then about a minute later, at T-minus 2 minutes, that'll be the second stage, LOX load complete. And that'll mean that we'll have a essentially a full rocket of propellants, right? Roughly 10 seconds or so after that, we'll have the return of the strong back vents. They're going to be venting out all of the remaining propellants and whatnot that are on those lines, releasing a lot of the pressure. We hear those, gas closeouts, call-outs, and whatever on the countdown. T-minus 1 minute, we'll have startup on Falcon 9. That means it'll take over the control of the countdown. It's going to be doing all of these checks to make sure that everything is ready to go for liftoff, hopefully in 2 minutes and 38 seconds.
There you go. Liquid oxygen load, as you're pointing out, completing there. You'll see more of that venting, again, that frost around it, totally normal with the super chilled propellants that are on board. Coming up on that final purge of the line there, getting rid of any excess propellants or oxidizers that may be still in those lines, clearing them out as the rocket gets ready to lift off right next to it. Just coming up on about 2 minutes to go at this point. And a reminder, this is a Falcon 9 Starlink 10-18 from the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida with 28 Starlink V2 mini satellites, booster 1090-5 going northeast. And if you do happen to catch any videos or pictures, you see our socials on the top right there. Make sure you go send them to us because we'd love to see them after the launch as well. Minute 45 to go now. And there is the completion of the liquid oxygen load on stage 2. The vehicle at this point now fully loaded with propellants. Next up should be the gas closeout call, which is that venting that we were talking about, similar to the 20-minute, 20-second vent. Close out all the lines that load everything up on the vehicle. Do final purges. About 80 seconds to go now. There you could see that big vent. And hear it, actually, with the gas closeout. Coming up now on a minute to go until flight, that is when Falcon 9 will enter startup, the onboard computers taking control of the count, and all of the tanks inside pressurizing to their flight levels. We will get the confirmation, hopefully from SpaceX, in just a couple of seconds.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
There we go. The next thing that we will listen for is the go for launch from the launch director on console. So we'll listen for that.
Launch director, go for launch.
There we go. Everything is go for launch. We are now under 30 seconds away. We will, of course, be quiet and let you listen to the sound as it lifts off. And it will take a couple seconds because we are a couple miles away with this view. Coming up now on 15 seconds to go. Under 10 seconds now. The rainbirds should be activating at this point, providing a deluge of water underneath the vehicle. You will then see the steam there from the engine ignition. And liftoff of Falcon 9. Go Starlink V2 Minis, go. Audio tonight, absolutely spectacular. 90 seconds into flight at this point. Vehicle has passed through max Q. Amazing rumble, amazing VAB squeal, and you could even see a bit of a vapor cone as it punched through there. And now chilling down the Merlin vacuum engine on stage 2, just like they did with the main engines on the first stage before liftoff. They will now chill that down to prepare it for its ignition in about 30 seconds or so from now. And again, we'll be coming up on 3 events in rapid succession. As the plume continues to expand there, it will shut down shortly in what is known as MECO, main engine cutoff, followed by stage separation, and then finally the ignition of that second engine start 1.
Oh, look at that blue.
Oh, the colors tonight, spectacular. Eat your heart out, West Coast. Gorgeous colors tonight. And there is MECO, main engine cutoff. So that will be followed by the stage separation. Passes right in front of a star there. And there is ignition of that Merlin vacuum engine.
Stage separation.
Oh, you can see the
confirmed.
thrusters even from stage 1.
That was really visible, that MVAC ignition from the ground.
MVAC startup.
Oh my gosh, yes. And there is the replay from onboard. As I mentioned, our cameras are a little bit ahead of the SpaceX views, so seeing it from their end on a slight delay. About 3 minutes into flight, the grid fins now will deploy on that first stage. Meanwhile, stage 2 continuing to burn the plume from it, starting to
Fairing
become
separation
visible
confirmed.
with that light and the fairing halves in that plume there as well, separating away from the vehicle, exposing those Starlink satellites to space. I mean, this has been a visually stunning launch tonight, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, visually and I guess also with the sounds, because we had that VAV squeal, the crackle, the roar of the rocket. That was amazing. I really liked that.
Everything was so pronounced tonight. The VAB squeal, the rumble, and again, getting to see the vapor cones, the color change, and then even the separation, absolutely stunning. And then that plume expanding outward. The team, also Max, doing a spectacular track down there as well. Hand tracking all of that, by the way.
Yep.
So now at this point, we should be nearing the apogee, or the highest point in the trajectory for this. You can tell on the bottom left there, right by the NSF logo, you'll see the speed kind of stall out. And then the altitude will stop. And then once the speed picks up again, it will be on its trajectory downward. And what is our recovery assets today, Alex?
Yeah, so downrange for the booster, we've got just read the instructions. That drone ship is stationed around 600 kilometers downrange from the launch site. And that'll be where booster B1090 will be landing, hopefully in about 3.5 minutes from now. Now, for those fairing halves, as we were mentioning, those should be splashing down a little bit further down range because they travel a little bit further down, and that'll be recovered by fairing recovery vessel Bob. So hopefully we'll see them also returning back on Space Coast Live. We'll be able to see those fairing serial numbers. We'll be able to tell whether it's, like the 20-something flight. Right now, there's already chatter on the Next Space Flight Discord that it's probably some of these fairings might be like 24th flight, 25th flight. So they are veterans, this fairing house.
Oh yeah, it's crazy that the fairing house may have flown more times than the booster.
Yep.
It's just crazy to think that. Yeah, this booster, the Dash 5, so 6 flights now. Hopefully we'll have that landing in a little bit, but first we have to have the entry burn where we fight fire with fire, right?
Yep. Well, it will be the 5th flight. So it's
Sorry,
split flight.
Yeah, we'll get the Dash
And
6. My apologies.
Exactly. Once it lands, hopefully in about 3 minutes or so, or rather less than 3 minutes, then we'll see and get that Dash 6. But here's coming up on the entry burn. I can already see some of that chill down on the Marlin engines.
There we go. And we
Stage
should
one
be
entry burn startup.
getting entry burn startup.
Stage
There we
1
go.
FTS has saved.
And there is ignition. You can see the on the graphic there, before we see it with our eyes, there are the 3 engines igniting and everything looking good there. I believe that's 159.
Yep.
And then that will drop back down to 1 engine and then shut
Stage
down.
1 entry burn shut
And
down.
there we go. And that is shut down. So now it will be picking up speed again, but that should start to bleed off very quickly here. So keep an eye on that. You'll see the speed stop, and then it enters the thick part of the atmosphere.
There it is.
Yep. And now it's going to go down very fast as we are about a minute away, hopefully, from touchdown on the drone ship. So we are getting that much closer, folks. Let's see. Hopefully we get some audio it's a shortfall of gravitas that is audio, not just read the instructions, right?
But we will see the deluge. Remember, folks, so of all of the drone ships that SpaceX has, they have 3 drone ships, 2 on the East Coast. The only one that has the water deluge is just read the instructions. That is today's drone ship. So once that landing comes up, you'll see that in action.
East Coast, West Coast. And you'll see a little bit of the light there from the drone ship on the left part of your screen. You can kind of see it through the grid fin there. So that is the deck of the drone ship. Very shortly should be coming up on that landing burn, which will
Stage
be a
1
single
landing burn.
engine burn. There's the call out. There's the graphic. And there's the visual.
Stage 2 terminal guidance.
Stage 2 on its final trajectory there. See those grid fins helping to steer it towards its final trajectory onto the drone ship.
Landing leg deploy.
Landing legs are out. And touchdown. Booster 1090 getting the Dash 6. Another notch on its belt and another 28 satellites on their way into space. And you can see there are a couple seconds left on this first burn. There is a second burn that lasts a couple seconds, but that happens about 50 minutes into flight, and we don't typically see those because SpaceX ends their stream early. But we, of course, will stay live to show you all of our replays, so make sure you stick around even past this, which is SECO 1, second engine cutoff 1. Because, of course, we have our views from the field, too, which Max is in the field. How was that?
That was a bit weird, tracking a good old nor'easter like we used to do all the time and don't do so much anymore. That was beautiful. Normally, whenever a Group 6 or a Group 12 Starlink mission is heading off in towards the southeast, it's flying directly away from us. So we really don't get a sense of how long the exhaust plume gets higher up in the atmosphere. Or we also don't get as good of a sense of how well it changes color as well. But in this case, we got both aspects very nicely, both with the exhaust plume expanding very long and then also changing color marvelously. That was absolutely beautiful.
And the sound tonight, at least from our vantage point, whatever you did with the microphone setup tonight was absolutely spectacular. I'm sure it sounded just as good in person, huh?
Oh yeah, and there's no wind at all tonight either to kind of knock it down. But it is very humid, and thick, humid air here in Florida carries the sound from a rocket much better than like any sort of dry, non-humid air would. So we heard it about as well as we could, and that was absolutely beautiful.
Beautiful indeed. And that is, what, 75 launches now this year for SpaceX, Alex?
Or Falcon 9, yeah. If you add the
Falcon 9.
3 Starship, yeah, that will be 78 already. We have replays?
We have
10 and a
replays.
half
Right,
minutes?
Michael
Replays.
Reed is on it tonight.
Wow.
Kevin's
He's
saying
been-
he hasn't done a late night Starlink in a while, and yet here we go.
He's been quiet in the back channel. He's been cooking.
Yeah, with the
Oh,
music.
no.
It's the music that keeps him awake.
Don't play us off yet. We still have more replays. Don't go anywhere. Thank you.
Cuts it immediately. That was perfectly timed.
Oh, but there you can see night turning into day, literally looking like a sunrise. The view here from our fleet cam on top of Rusty's at the port. Great restaurant, great view for launches. Worth pointing out there also. But yeah, absolutely gorgeous. It really does light up a night sky. It is like a second sun. It's so cool to see, and this view always does a great job of showcasing that. Also, with the slight haze in the air, just adding to the atmosphere too. And this is Fleet Cam 2 as well out there that we have now. We have 2 fleet cams, which you can see on our Space Coast Live 24/7 cameras. And by the way, that is typically the crane and the platforms and everything that they use to offload this booster. So once it does come back in a couple of days, it will be offloaded right on this exact view in pretty much this exact spot in port. They'll put a cap on it, raise it, move it over to the dock side, and then lower it horizontal to be trucked back to Hangar X, where they will do any work they need to do on it before its next flight. How
And
many do
speaking of
they have?
the-
Do we know how
What?
many they have hanging out at like Hangar X or that area? I don't think there's an official number, but
You know, I think they're probably even maxed out on the space at Hangar is. We sometimes see other boosters like coming from other places at the Cape. They have a Hangar M, for example, at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. So that's another place where they can store some of these boosters. Between Vandenberg and the Cape, they have a total of 20 active boosters, with a couple of boosters waiting to become active, so to speak, right? Because they've already been tested and whatnot. So I think they are already maxed out at Hangar X. So yeah, look at that.
thankfully we are not maxed out because we have Max's replay coming up.
Wow.
I knew you were gonna make a joke about that.
Of course, I had to. The moon tonight, not a paid actor. Take a look at that. 2 moons. What are we on, Alderaan or something here? But yeah, you could see the moon there and Falcon 9 lighting up the
There's
sky. I
your-
don't know.
Pun token.
That's no moon. That's anyway. It's not a space station. That's hopefully in a couple days. But gorgeous launch tonight, again from our robot army at the press site there at the Launch Complex 39 press site at Kennedy Space Center. Absolutely spectacular. Let's see which view we have up next. We got the close-up view from our other robot there, lighting up the sky. I love how you could see kind of the glow from the wider view at the port there. And then you get the really super sharp view of just the intense ball of light that it is with these close-up views. Yes, pun.exe is working again. After it broke earlier in the stream, it has returned much to the dismay of everyone. The money shot from Max, also with the moon there of liftoff. Are there any KSC security out there tonight that you heard?
You know, I haven't heard them in quite a while. And there we go. We can see the initial liftoff there. It becomes literally like a sunrise. It's absolutely beautiful. But no, I haven't heard gators bellowing in a while. Maybe they've just opted to clear out because they got so sick of the noise.
Yeah, as much as they're going now, because I know recently they had the mating season, so they were quite abundant. But
Yes.
Ooh, audio.
that's the VAB squeal. You'll hear it again in a second for those wondering. On this view. But yeah, that is the sound of the resonance from the engines going up against the paneling on the vehicle assembly building. I don't know what it is with the Merlins, but they have fun with those panels, and they resonate in just a way that you get that squealing sound at launch. It's one of those sounds that's really hard to describe until you hear it. You know, you
Yeah.
hear it on air. I mean, it sounds very close to that in person, but it almost sounds more, I don't know, more ghostly in person. Anyway, let's listen to it again here. The vapor cone.
It was a bit trickier to track tonight because, of course, the mosquitoes are out in force and they were all over my hands, and it made it quite tricky to keep it stable at times. So I hope this was acceptable.
Beyond acceptable, I think. I mean, yeah, and again, you could see that vapor cone just riding off the back there. That was absolutely spectacular. Also spectacular, a couple of people with support here. Mark Lamb gifting 10 Red Team memberships. Thank you very much for doing that as well. And again, make sure you reach out to the shop team. We will make sure we get that fixed up for you and be able to get those prints. And Ethereal Swordsman coming in with some more words of wisdom as we see the gorgeous color change. The blue tonight. Oh, that blue tonight was stunning. I mean, just watch this right here. Oh.
It happened so quickly, too.
And it goes away so quickly, but when you capture it, Max, stunning. Right on the bass drum. We get Mika there. So yes, Mark, thank you for gifting 10 Red Team memberships. Very much appreciate that. Ethereal Swordsman coming in here saying, in most parts of the world, if the sun rises at midnight, it means you just got caught in a nuclear war. In the Cape, however, it just means your internet is about to get a little bit better. That is really clever, Ethereal Swordsman. I like that one.
Just another Wednesday morning.
Is it Wednesday now already? Goodness gracious.
It is technically Wednesday now, being 2 a.m.
And Jeremy, thank you for gifting a Red Team membership as well. We appreciate it. And a shout out to flightclub.io. If you take a look at the next Spaceflight app, we actually have a way where you can see the trajectory of a launch even while it's launching there. And that trajectory data is provided by Flight Club. So shout out to Declan and the team over there as well. Max Evans out in the field shooting the video that you see here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure as always, everyone. Thank you very much for staying up late with us and coming to hang out. It has been a pleasure as always, and hopefully we will see you guys again for both Kuiper Mission 2 and Axiom 4 rather soon.
Exactly, which there is a question here from Joe. Anyone know the time the Axiom 4 launch would be? Sunday? Maybe we'll go see it. It's going to be probably early morning, around 4 a.m.-ish, but we'll see. It also depends on the day, which right now, no earlier than the 22nd. But if you actually hit the notification on the YouTube stream for it, you'll know when it does happen. You were going to say?
I got the T0, at least the tentative T0, which will be 3:42 a.m. Eastern. That will be 7:42 UTC, but not Evergreen Terrace.
Yes. Alex, thank you for that, and thank you for joining us on commentary.
And also with a Simpsons reference. But yeah, thank you for having me as always.
And thank you to Kevin Michael Reed for providing all of the shots, pushing the buttons, pulling the levers, and dropping the beats tonight. Thank you, Kevin. There we go. I'm Sawyer Rosenstein. I have been your host for tonight's launch webcast. We will see you for the next one.
And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, roger, planet.
Water towers fly! Yes! Payload down to nominal.
Fighting downside FD off. Bring in FD off. It's orange! 145! Oh my god! Oh my god! Decollage! What is it? Put that in the big bag, you know.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
The methane will be igniting the flare, correct?